Yes, you can join. I think it should go live in any moment from now. It should go live any moment from now. We're live. Okay, now I send message.
Welcome to N Academy's webinar titled Bring Your Design to Life. My name is EMC, the Head of Operations for N Academy. What is N Academy? N Academy is a motion design institute that teaches motion graphics, video editing, graphics design, and other motion graphics disciplines in different cohorts all year round. Today, you'll learn how to take your designs done on Adobe Photoshop and animate it with Adobe After Effects. So, who is our facilitator for today? He's the CEO and founder of N Academy Motion Design Institute by the name Nasir Karim, also known as NAS. He is a seasoned motion graphics artist who has worked with companies both local and internationally. I would strongly advise you that you do away with all distractions, take your pen and your paper, and also be with your system so that you can implement all of the things that you're going to learn today. While you're here, we have a surprise for just one person. Amongst the first 10 persons that joined this webinar, a 50% scholarship for our motion design Kickstart online course, which will be introduced to you later on during this webinar. Thank you very much for joining and have a blast.
I really hope you guys can hear me. Welcome to today's webinar. Let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Nasir Karim. I'm a motion designer. I've been doing this for the past 6 to 7 years now, and I'm just so happy to be in this position. It's such a privilege to be able to train and help people, and I'm so happy to be here. Today's webinar is actually going to be really impactful, but before I even talk about today's webinar, I would like to just do a little bit more of introduction of myself again. So for those that are just seeing me, meeting me, you might not know what I do, or of course I think you do know what I do, but let me just show you a little bit more about myself. So let me show you my portfolio page, my social media pages. So let me just quickly get to that now. All right, so so if you want to really know more about my work, you can visit my portfolio page, which is vimeo/nasworks. Yeah, you get to see some of my works, even the ones that I can't put on Instagram. You get to see them here, right? And I'm pretty sure you would you should be able to get engaged with them. Then my Instagram, this is my Instagram handle, nas.k_works. You get to see my work, you get to see my YouTube, a little bit preview of my YouTube, right? Because I actually have a YouTube channel. I'm talking about YouTube channel, right? Just give me a second. I really need to quickly set that up so that you can see where my YouTube is. Just give me a second, please. I can see from live chats, Omnex, thanks for being here. Taiwo, Oluwagbenga, Benjamin, Owolabi, I really appreciate you all, right? So let me quickly show you guys my YouTube channel. Okay, I think I'm set for that. All right, so this is my YouTube channel, and in short, I have 30 videos there already, and this is where I actually dish out weekly tutorials, and I have so many things for beginners, right? I'm very passionate about people that just want to get into the industry, and I have, if you go to my playlist, you have the text animation series, and I have beginners tutorial and so on. I also have basic series. So if you check this series that I have, I think it's something it will really engage you, right? And if you are here to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please do, so that you can get real life updates from me. And I think that's it from me, right? But let me quickly talk about the expectation for this webinar. This webinar is actually for beginners, people that are starting to that they want to start off with motion design, and also for graphic designers getting to start the journey in motion design. So this is going to be broken down into 2 sections. So the first section is actually we are just going to quickly see overview of After Effects, just talk about the panels and things like that. And the second section That's tongue twisting. Second section actually talks about that's when we now dive in deep into taking your graphics in Photoshop and then animating After Effects. So for each section, we have space for questions in the live chat, and because of time, I might not be able to take more than one or two questions. So be patient, and we have something for one person, right? It's a surprise for one person, so you have to stick to the end to know if you can be a partaker of that surprise. So we are going to be giving out scholarship, but we'll get to that later. So let's get to the first section of the training.
So when you click on After Effects, this is the first thing you're going to see. So I want you to keep in mind I'm using the updated version of Adobe Effects 2023. If you're using lesser versions like 2022, 2021, it's not so much different. So I wouldn't want you to worry about that. There's going to be any difference. I'm going to be making sure I'm pointing that out in the training, right? And I'm also connected to my Creative Cloud if you have an account with Adobe. And right now, all this is asking is if you want to create a new project, open project, or select from a file. Well, we are going to start by creating a new project. As soon as you do, this is what you're going to see. So let me just quickly explain to you some of this panel. So this area is our composition area. This is our project panel area. This is our layer panel area, and this is our timeline panel area. And here we have some panels which we are going to touch on a little bit. So the first thing I'd like us to do is to create a new composition. So I'm going to click on this. So by default, this is what you're going to see. And here is asking for your composition name. So I can just quickly name this to introduction. And here we have some presets already. So in our focus motion design kickstart online and even the physical classes, we actually went ahead and discussed deeply what all of this is, but because of time we are just going to touch on them and still have a good understanding what this is. On the preset side, if I click on this, you can see that we have different kinds of presets. For other older versions, 2022 and I believe 2021, you might not see these presets. You might not see the social media presets, but now in 2023 you can see that. So if I want to do something with IG story, this is the preset I will use. But for now, I'm just going to stick with HD 1080.25 frame rate per second and leave these options, leave it as square pixels. Then the frame rate, I can come here and then choose whatever frame rate I want. But I want you to know that the standard is from 23.9 to 30 frame rate per second, which is the standard. You can actually choose anyone, you can go lower or higher. The choice is yours. I'm going to go with 30 frames per second. The resolution, we're going to leave it on full. The time code, we are going to leave it just the way it is. The duration, I'm going to make sure it's 10 seconds. So I'm just going to come here and edit this to 10 seconds. And the background color, this background color does not really matter, and I will show you that later. But if you still want to change it, you can click on it and then choose whatever background color that you want. So I'm just going to leave it at black, right? If I want to change the color, I can always move this around to select any color that I want, and it will definitely update. But for now, I just want to go with black, and I'll click OK, and I'll click OK. So immediately I do that, you can see it has created my composition, full HD composition. Like I said before, this is my composition area. This is my project panel area, and in the project panel area, anything you'll be creating, your assets, your pictures, sound, everything will be here. This is your layer panel area. This is the timeline, and then we have other panels here which you will get to a little bit. So I want to quickly touch on what we have here. So you can easily go to your file, and just like we have in other kind of programs, you can create new, save as, import, export, or you see all of this in file, then edit. You can copy, you can paste, you can duplicate, you can purge. Then move on to composition. You can create a new composition. You can go to composition settings, layer, effects, animation, and so forth. So basically, the whole idea is this: if you want to do anything that has to do with the composition, you go straight to the composition, you get your solution. If you want to do anything that has to do with the layers, you go straight to layer, you get whatever solution you're looking for there, right? And you want to do anything that has to do with effect, adding new effect, editing the effects, you go to effects, animation. Where you've already added animation to your composition or your layers, you can come here for you to do all of that. So now to quickly talk about the workspace. Our workspace is just the panels you are going to be using or be needing while working. So if I go to straight to my windows and go straight to workspace, you can see we have different kind of workspace. I've actually created more workspace, so that's why you'll be seeing something like a.works, simplified. These are my own custom workspace that I've created, and I'm going to show you how you can easily create yours. But right now we're on the standard. For some of you might be on the default, so if I click on the default, you can see that the workspace has actually changed. You can see some of those panels here has gone, and then he has introduced more panels here, which is fine. But I want us to switch back to standard. So go back to Windows, Workspace, and then you can do standard. So you can actually explore any of this if you want during your spare time, so you can understand what works for you. But right now we're going to do standard. With standard, this is what we have. So the next thing I'd like to do is to introduce you to some of the tools that we have here. So here is the home button. If you click on this, it will take us back to that very first page. Here is the selection tool, the hand tool, the zoom tool. For we that have basic knowledge already or have background in graphic design, all of this will be very familiar to you. And we have some panels here that you cannot select. This has to do with the camera. We are going to be skipping this for now. We have the rotation tool, we have the pan icon point tool, we have the shape tool here as well, we have the pen tool, the text tool, which we are going to get into pretty soon. So let us come down here. In here we have the magnification pop-up tool. So if I click on this, I can only see fit. You can see that my composition fits perfectly, and I can always zoom in or out using this. So here the resolution, you can always leave it at full for now. But if you are working and your preview is actually very slow, you can switch to half or quarter to get real-time results. We'll skip this right now because we don't need it now. So but the next one I want you to see is the toggle transparency grid. So if I click on this, I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with this, most especially graphic designers. This means that it is empty, that nothing is there. And that is why I say the color of the background doesn't really matter, because the composition is actually empty. I'm going to skip the rest of this right now, and in the course of the training I'll introduce you to more. So we have some panels here. We have the info panel. Whenever you're creating anything, you only see the info here. We have the audio panel, the preview panel as well. We also have the effects and libraries, so you can always adjust your workspace or the panel of your workspace like this. If you click in between, you can always do this, and you can see that I can see my libraries in full now today. So how do we do that? So like I said, you can actually move things around, right? You can drag, target in between the lines, and then drag, adjust. You can drag and adjust this, which is really cool. So you can also click a panel and then drag and move it somewhere else. So I click on this and drag and move it somewhere else, so I can drop it here, right? You can also click on these three buttons and close it. So I don't need my audio for now, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to go to my libraries, and I'm going to click on this three button and close that because I don't need that for now. So if I want to add more panels to this, let's say for instance the align and paragraph, so I'll go to Windows and I'm going to click on align, and as soon as I do that, this will appear here. I'll go to Windows again, and I'm going to click on paragraph, so which is here. Click on that. As soon as I do that, it will appear here. So and I can always adjust this way, right? So let me adjust this way, adjust this way as well. Okay, so I can also bring in my character. So I'll click on this and click on character, which has to do with text. And as soon as I do that, this will appear here. So if you're not really satisfied with in the positioning of this, you can also click and drag, right? I can click and drag out, right? So it will only want to pin wherever you want to paste this. So I can come here and just drop this here, right? But I really don't want this here. I want this to be here, so I'm just going to drop it back here. Okay, so that's it for arranging your own custom workspace. And the next thing I want to do, because this is what I want to be working with throughout the course, so I'm just going to go to Windows, go to workspace, and then I'll say save as new workspace. So I'll click on this and then I'll say bring YL. So BYL is bring your design to life. So I'm just using that workspace. So I'm just going to click OK. When next I open my After Effects, I can always go to Windows, go to Workspace. Automatically, it's going to be on that, but just in case it's on, let's say, default, so you can just go to Windows, go to Workspace, and then click on the new workspace you created, and then you always have this. So that's it for Workspace. So now I want to quickly show you how you can import your asset into After Effects, like music, pictures, footages, and so on. You can do that by double clicking, and it will bring out your file explorer, and I'll just put in where I have my images, and I'll select any image that I want. So I'm just going to select this. As soon as you do it, to bring them into the project panel. This is the image here. If you look up here, you can actually see the size of the image. You can see that this is actually very large size, which is really good, because the larger your image in terms of resolution, the better looking it is. So right now I want to bring this into my composition. Remember, my composition is empty, and I want you to know that what fill up a composition is the layers. You can see that the layer side is empty, so there's nothing in my composition. So you have to fill up the layers for you to be able to see anything in your composition area. So I'm just going to click in my image, and I'll drop it here. You can see it's actually quite large, and I can zoom out using my middle mouse. Just scroll back, and you can see how large it is. And it kind of makes sense, because remember, our resolution is actually full HD, which is 1920 by 1080, so it makes sense that it's actually way larger than this. So how do we make sure we manage this so that it will not look this big? So this is why I would like to introduce you to the transform properties. So if I click on my image in my layer panel, I can always click on this arrow here, and if I do that, you can see I have transform. And if I drop down, click on the drop down, you can see that I have anchor point, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. So for now, I'll skip the anchor point. Right, let us go straight to the rest. So for now, we have the position. You can see that we have two values. The first one is the x-axis, the second one is the y-axis. So if I click and drag to the side, even if I drag up and down, right, it's dragging left and right. So I can reduce the value, and as I'm doing that, is that moving left or right? So I can leave this just the way it is. But click on the second value, you can see that it's going up and down, even though I'm going left or right. So that's because it's meant to be x and y axis. And let me just reset the position. So I'll right click and do reset, so it will go back to the default positioning. And for the scale, I can click and then drag down, right? You can see I can make things smaller or make things bigger. So right now you can see that we are far away from our composition. So what I will do is I'll click on the magnification pop-up tool here, and I'll click on fit. Now it's fit into our composition. So I'll now scale down my picture, right, using the scale. So now it's fitting. Avoid doing something like this, except if you are trying to do this intentionally like this, or I can just click and drag it until it fits, and then I can even adjust the position. So I can click on the position like this, right, which is okay. Then for the rotation, I can click and drag and rotate it anywhere it is. Can you see? But for now, I'm just going to leave it at 0. Then opacity has to do with the transparency, right? So you can see if I click on toggle transparency grid, so you can see that if I reduce the opacity, we are like seeing almost nothing there. Now let me go back to rotation for a second. You can see that this is rotating from the center, and that's because our anchor point, so this is actually the anchor point, it's actually at the center. So if I want to change the anchor point, you can come here and then change the values, right? Can you see that it's moving it? Or you can actually come to this tool here, the pan behind anchor point tool. If I click this, I can change the anchor point to whatever I want. So I'm just going to undo that, and I'll select my move tool. So let me quickly touch on the rest that we have here. So this is my move tool. If I select this on my composition, I can easily move around, and this is my hand tool. So if I click this, I can just move around, and the shortcut for the hand tool is spacebar. So if I'm on the move tool, I can hold down space and then move around. Immediately I release my space bar, it changes back to the move tool. Then we have the zoom tool here. I can click on this and zoom in, zoom in. If I want to zoom out, I'll hold down Alt and zoom out. And I can always come here to fit to screen. So now the next thing I'd like to touch on is the shape tool. So if I click and hold, you can see I have different kinds of shape. Great. But for now, I'd like us to just create a simple rectangle. And as soon as you do that, you can click and then drag, right? But mind you, need to, let me delete this, right? Before you start drawing your shape, make sure this is not selected, because if you select this and then start drawing your shape, you start drawing a mask. Okay, so make sure you avoid that. So I'm just going to undo. I'm going to click out, right? Make sure nothing is selected, and then I'll start drawing my shape. By default, it's going to be a red color. So as far as you're on this shape tool, you're going to have access to these functions here. So by default, it's going to be red, and I can easily change the color to whatever color that I want. Maybe I can do something like let's say this kind of blue color. Okay, and I have this. Also, I can also change the type of fill options that we have. So if I click on the fill, you can see the first one is no fill, which is take away the fill. Second one is solid color. This next one is the linear gradients and the radial gradients. If I select on the linear gradient, for instance, if I click OK, can you see that it has a gradient? So it's actually applying this gradient because this is what I used the last time. So for you, it might just be black and white, and you can actually edit the colors by just coming here and then come here and then change the color to this. And I can come here, even drag this out, come here, change the color to white, and change this color to black. If I click OK, you can see that will definitely update. Okay, you can also change this to the radial gradient as well, but for now we're going to stick to solid color, and I'm just going to click on OK on that. And as well, we can also add stroke. So if you want stroke around the shape, you can choose any of these options too as well, but I'm going to go with solid color, and I'm going to click OK. And if I want to change the color, I'll just click on the color here. I'll make sure it's white, and I'll click OK. And I can increase the stroke width by just controlling the width this way. Okay, so I'll click out. So for us to be really neat and tidy in our composition, I would like to rename our layer panel. So let me close this first, and then I'll close this as well. And I'm going to come here and just click on enter, and I'm going to rename this to rectangle. Okay, I can choose to rename this here or rename here. If I rename here, anyway I use the image to carry the name, or if I rename here, it will not change the original source. So what do I mean? So let me rename this to image 01. I did that by just click once and press enter. That's how you can rename. Same thing here. So you can see that as soon as I change the name here, it changes here, right? But if I change it here, it won't change here, and it won't affect other composition. So I'll click out. Now we have this. So the next thing I like to create is the text. So I'm going to come here and click on the text tool. I can click that, and then I can come here and then start typing let's say design, right? And by default, I think you should have white color or red color, right? So if you want to change the font, you can come here and type in the kind of font that you want. So for me, I think I would like to use Nexa, right? You don't necessarily have to use Nexa. If you're actually following me, you can use any other font. So I'm going to go with Nexa Bold, and I can change the color. So let me use something like gray color like this, and I can change the size of the font with this. I can increase the kerning using this, right? But for now, I'm going to just leave it at 0, right? So I'm just going to take the text and let me put it somewhere here, I like this text to be capitalized, so I'm just going to come here, right? If I click on this, this is going to make it more bold, right? And this is going to make it italics. This is going to capitalize it. Okay, so I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to probably make this small, let's say 90 pixels, and I can increase the tracking right here, and just increase it a little bit. I think I can still make this smaller. Let's do 60. So just a simple design. So I can select my text and bring it here. So we have this simple design. You can see how you can quickly create your own design in After Effects. So the next thing I would like us to go into is now animation. So before we go into the animation proper, I would like to quickly show you some things. If you look through our layers, if yours is not look like mine, it's absolutely fine. All you need to do is just come here and select any of this option. Can you see it's changing? Right, I can select this option. We have more things that we are showing here, but for now I want you to just have just this option alone, right? And if it's still looking different, try and click on toggle switches and mode, right? So it will switch from this mode to this, right? So for now I want us to have this. Let's leave it the way it is, this way, and then let us look through the timeline. So you can see, remember we did 10 seconds in our composition, so that's why we have from 0 to 10 seconds. So with this is our time indicator. You can easily move your time indicator like this in the timeline, and as you can see, because we've not added any animation in this composition, that's why it's still like it's nothing. Like this is just this graphic design, it's not yet a motion design basically. So what I would like to do is I want to show you some things here. I would like to hide the text and the shape. So let me quickly hide this and hide this. You can see what we have here. So we have the image alone. So if I want to bring them back in, I'll just select this two eye icon. All right, so let me hide this. So because I want to really just focus on this. So we want to basically apply simple animation to this. So I'm thinking I can zoom in out with using my middle mouse. So I'm thinking, what if this image slides from the down to the center? Like it should just slide down, up. How am I going to do that? So let's quickly get to that. Now remember, I've introduced you to transform properties. So if I click on this, you can see we have my transform properties. Now I want you to take note of all of these things beside the transform properties. These are like stopwatch. They're actually stopwatch where you can actually record your animation. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and at this point I want this to be out of the screen. So I'm just going to click on my position and drag it down. Right, if I hold down shift, it will go way faster. Okay, and this is the thing you need to do for you to start recording your animation. You click on the stopwatch. So as soon as you do that, two things will happen. You can see that this has changed to blue, showing that now we've created a keyframe. And if you can look closely here, you have this diamond thing here. It's showing that you have recorded the value of the position at this point here in this time. Now I'm not going to go forward in time. So you can see that I'm moving my time indicator. By the way, you can also just click on anywhere you want on the timeline. The time indicator will snap there. So I'm going to move to, let's say, 2 seconds, and then I'm going to change the value. So I'm going to click this, and then I'm just going to drag back into the scene. Right, let's see something like this. Right, you can see that immediately I do that, another keyframe appeared here. Okay, so what happened is, if I take the time indicator back and then I play, I can use my preview button to play here, or I can use the shortcut, which is spacebar, and play. This is what we have, right, which is looking interesting. So this is our first animation, right? And of course you can see that nothing else is happening here. So for us to be able to stick to where this animation is happening, we can just come to 3 seconds, grab this blue icon here and drag it back to this point. So if I play this, when it gets to that point, it loops, right? So right, to just make you review where you are doing your animation, and the shortcut for that is N. So if I put my time indicator here, if I press N, you can see that it snaps. So if I come here now, if I press N, you can see that it snaps there. So if I play this is what I have, right? So we've created our first animation. Well, if you look at this animation, right, it looks kind of boring, right, because it's kind of slow. So the first thing I like to do is, let me see if I can make this a little bit faster. So I can do that by just taking this time indicator to 1 second. So if I take it to 1 second at this point, yeah, at this point here, so it will be faster. That means the animation is happening in faster time. So but still this animation is not exactly looking great, right? It's not looking like it's animated or it's intentional. So this is where I'm going to introduce you to the Easy Ease and Graph Editor. For us to be able to have really cool smooth animation, I can highlight this 2 keyframe. I can go to the animation panel here. I'll go to keyframe assistant, and I'm going to click on Easy Ease, and the shortcut for that is F9. Easy Ease. As soon as I do that, if I take this back and then play, can you see that there's a little bit more attitude to the animation, right, compared to the way it was before, which is really cool. So what I need to do, because I still want to have more control over the speed. The speed is still not looking very interesting. Then this is where I'll introduce you to the graph editor. So I'll align this 2 keyframe and I'll click on this button here, title graph editor. So for you, you might not exactly see this because this is what I used the last time. You might see something like this. Most likely this is what you're going to see actually. So all you need to do is just right click, then click on edit speed graph. And as soon as you do that, you see this. So for now, this is the value graph, which we are not going to be working on. You right click on edit speed graph. Let me quickly explain what's going on here. So as you can see this is actually explaining the speed of the animation. So if I zoom in a little bit, can you see the graph very well? So just think of it as when it is at the value 0 here, it is not moving, right? The speed is on a stop. But then when it starts picking up, right, you can see that the value here is at 500. That means if it's picking up, right? So that means it's when it gets to 1000, that means it's getting faster. And when it gets to this point, which is about 2000 pixels per second, that means this is where it's getting the fastest. Then when it gets to this point, it starts dropping down. The speed started dropping down, and then it stops, right? So just think of it this way: slow, fast, slow, slow, fast, slow, right? I really hope that helps because that's the easiest way that I was able to really understand this when I was learning to as well. So I can just zoom back out a little bit, and with what I've said, if I play this, right, if you can pay closer attention, you can see that it's from beginning it stops, then at this point is the fastest. So if I play this, right, so you can see how it looks. So you know what, let me check this and then zoom out a little bit. Let me drag this to the 2-second mark, right? So these are 2-second mark here, so you guys can see what I'm saying exactly, right? So now that it is slower, you can see what I'm saying. I like this. Go back to the graph editor and select this. So now that it is slower, let's see, you can able to see how this is doing. Now we've applied easy ease, but we still need more control. We still need to edit the speed some more. So what I would do is I will highlight this and I can take this week and then adjust this. So what this is doing is I'm editing the speed, and with this, if I have to interpret this now, I can see that at this point, so let me zoom in a little bit more. So I can see that at this point it's actually picking up a little bit, but it picked up faster, right? And this is at its fastest, and then it started dropping down the speed, and it's decelerating to the end, right? And if I play this now, zoom out, this is what I have, right? Can you see that that is kind of different from what we have before, and this actually looks more interesting than what we have before. So I can always go in here to my graphic editor and do whatever style that I want. So I can come here and then tweak this to the center like this, and if I play this now, can you see what we have? Can you see what's going on here? So which is quite interesting. So I like this. I can still do easy ease to go back to the way it was, and then I can just do something else, maybe even do something like it is slamming to the wall, right? Because this is slow, then towards the end it's just snapped. So if I play this, can you see that? So you can have different kind of styles that you want basically. So I'm going to align this, and I'm just going to do easy ease, and then I'll just do this instead. I'll go back to my main composition, and then if I play this now, this is what I have, right? So this is what we are going to stick to. So but I want you to note that this is just position animation that I apply. You can also apply same kind of animation to scale, to rotation, to opacity, everything that has the stopwatch, you will definitely be able to apply your animation to. So for now, I'm going to just leave the image like this, and I'm just going to close this up, and I'm going to go to my shape. Now for my shape, let me just uncheck the image. So I'm just going to focus on the shape, right? So for my shape, I think what I would like to do is to just apply simple scale animation to it. So, and I think I would go to 0 seconds. If I click this, you can see that this has more stuff in there, but my focus is not the contents. My focus is on transform. So I'll open up my transform, and like I said, I want to apply scale animation to this. So let me make sure this is free to screen, and I'll just go straight to the scale. Let me introduce you guys to some shortcuts. So if I want to have access to the position of this particular layer, I'll press P for position, S for scale, R for rotation, and you might think opacity should be O, but opacity is actually T, which stands for transparency. But for now, I just want to deal with the scale rectangle. So I'm going to press S for scale. I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to change the value here to 0. Okay, so it's nothing here. I'm going to set this at this point, and I'm going to go to the 1 second mark, and I'm going to change the value back to 100, right? You can also do this backward. So what do I mean? I can cancel my animation by doing that, okay? And I can first of all take my time indicator to 1 second, set this, then take this back in time to 0 second, and change the value to 0, and I'll click out. Okay, so if I like this, if I play this, can you see what I have? Right, very boring animation. I like this. I'll right click, so you can apply easy ease by going to animation here and do keyframe assistant, or you can just highlight it here, right click, go to keyframe assistant and do easy ease, which is F9. Okay, so if I play this now, this is what I have, right? Which is still boring. I have to go to the graph editor. I like this and do this, right? So if I play this now, this is what I have. Can you see this is more interesting, right? This is actually more interesting, which is cool. So I've applied animation to my image and my shape, which is very interesting. Now for the text, so let me hide this too. For now, let us focus on the text. So for the text, there are different ways for you can animate it, because it also has its own transform, right? But text also has its own another content, which is text, source text, and all that, but we're not going to touch that for now. So what I want us to do is to animate this text, so we can go to the transform and then apply opacity animation, something like this, or apply scale animation, or the text can slide from down up, right? But I want to introduce you guys to what I call presets. How do we make use of presets, and what are presets? Presets are already made animation that you can just easily apply to your layers and then to carry out the animation that was there. All right, so let's just quickly get to that. Let me quickly show you what that is very fast. So I'm going to select my text. I'm going to go to the beginning of the text layer, and I'm going to go to my effects and presets panel here. I'm going to go to animation presets. I'm going to go to presets, and I'm just going to scroll down to the folder text, right? Remember, you're going to animation presets. Then when you open that up, you will see presets, and then you go straight to text. And if I open this up, you can see we have different kinds of folders here. Then go to animate in folder because we want to animate the text in, which makes sense. So I'll choose any of this that I want. So but for now, I'm just going to go with, let me try and go with fade up characters, and I can just click and drop here, or click and drop here, or make sure this is selected and I'll just double click. So that's three different ways at which you can actually add your preset to your layer. So if I play this now, the text is already animated. But for now, what if you want to have control over this animation? Like it's too slow, right? What if you want to make it faster? You want to make it easy ease and make it more interesting. So how do we do that? So for you to see your animated keyframe, you can click on your layer and press U. So when you click on U, you're able to see the animated keyframe, and you can easily just adjust accordingly and apply easy ease. So you can only switch your shortcut. I would just like to show you what I'm exactly doing. Easy ease, then go to your graph editor and do the same kind of graph to this. And if I play this, can you see this one we have? Right, which is quite interesting. So in your spare time, you can try and explore all these effects. You can try and just explore all these effects, which is really going to be really fun for you. So if I activate all of this now, I can play this. You can see this is interesting, but you can see that all of them are animated at the time. So this is where I like to introduce to you layer hierarchy. Layer hierarchy is actually two types. There's a vertical hierarchy, which is from up or down, up, down, and there's horizontal, which is from left to right. So for the vertical hierarchy, it's just whatever that is on top shows first, right? So for instance, if I take the image and drag it up, you can see that that has actually covered the text and shape. But if I drag it below the text, let's cover the shape. If I drag it down, you can see that the image is actually below everything, just like we have it before. Likewise, the text, if I rearrange them, can you see? So that's layer hierarchy on the vertical side. Now on the horizontal side, and this has to do with the timeline, right? I can actually have something like this. I can move my layers to the side. I can move this to the side. When you're moving, try and avoid something like this because this is cutting off the layer and adding to it. So I won't do that. So just move it by clicking on the side like this. So on the horizontal hierarchy, if I play my animation, can you see this is showing first, this shows second, and then this shows next. And if I actually highlight everything and press U to see my keyframe, you can see what is going on here. So if I play this, and this, so everything is showing accordingly, right? So let me just do that. If I now do something like this, you can see that this will only cover this up, right? But what if I now make this appear here first, rearrange it in a certain way? So you can see this will show, followed by the image, and followed by this. You need to take note of how you are arranging your layers in the timeline and also how it is in the layer itself. So I'm just going to take that back and just rearrange this. I like these three and then adjust them to start from the beginning. So by rearranging this makes it more interesting actually. So I can put it somewhere here. So if I play this now, you can see I have this cool animation thing going on here. One other thing I would also like to do on the animation part is I also like to add additional animation for this image. So what I'll do is simple because it's standing still and I'm not comfortable with it. So I just want you to be scaling it a little bit. So how do I do that? I'll go back in time. I'll press S for scales. Scaling has to do with scaling, of course, but I meant zooming in, right? So, and I have to just check this at this point. Can you see that 41% here? And if I go to, let's say, about 5 seconds, I can change the value to just increase to, let's say, about 46, and I can just leave this just the way it is. play, can you see that the image is scaling, right? And which makes it more engaging. So this is all we are going to cover for animation. We are going to dive in a little bit more into animation when we actually go into straight into Photoshop. So the last thing I would like to cover here before we leave is the effects, how to apply effects to your layers or composition. So let me just close this. We don't need this for now. So let's get to it. So now we have this. So for now, I'd like to close or hide these first two layers so I can really show you some effect that we have. So for you to have access to effect, you can go through here, but then it's not highlighted. And the reason why it's not highlighted is because nothing is selected. So I have to select this, go to effect, and you can see we have a whole lot of effects here. If you check yours, you might be seeing some that are not in yours because I've actually installed some new ones, bought some effect as well. So as time goes on, you might have to also do the same. But for now, you will see most of your effects here, and all of this that you see here is also the same thing that you also see here as well, if you can pay attention to the effects panel here. So we have different kind of effects, and they're in folders or categories. So there's a 3D channel. This is everything that is under 3D channel. There's blur and sharpen. This is everything that is under blur. We can keep going on and on that. But for now, let me introduce you to just some few effects that you might be using the most. So this effect, the first effect we'll be dealing with is fill. So, and this one is under generate. So if I go to generate, you can see we can add gradients, advanced lighting and the rest of it. But now I'll add fill. Now fill is just color. All it does is to just change the color of your layer. It's actually quite simple. Immediately I added the fill, you can see that we have another panel here called effect control, right? You can see it's just right beside the project panel. So by default it will add red. So with this I can change the color to whatever I want and to change it. So this does not respect if it is an image or footage. It just changes this color to whatever color it is. And of course you can, if you look through the settings, you can actually reduce the opacity, right? So it's even reducing the opacity of the entire layer, right? This is actually used mostly for shape and other kind of layers. So for now I just want to show you that, right? And this is actually very good because you can see the stopwatch. You can easily just come here at this point, let's say at this point, set this, then go forward in time, change the color to red, then probably go forward in time again, change the color to blue, right? So what will happen if I press U now, can you see that it has changed the color, right? So which is very cool. So I'm just going to take this and delete it. Like I said, it's much more appropriate for shape. And if I had fill, so let us look at the shape. If I had fill to this, so I can come in here and use the last use effect, or I can just come in here and search for the effects that I want, right? Remember it's under generate. I can come and then drop this here. It will change everything, right? So the advantage of using fill effect over this is because you cannot animate this, but this you can animate. So that's one thing you also take note of, right? And this override stroke, it overrides everything. So I just want you to take notes of that. So let me uncheck this. So another effect I would like to introduce you to is blur. So let's say you want to introduce some blur into this. I can go to the effect, go to blur and sharpen. We have different kinds of blur, right? But the most common one are Faxbox blur and Gaussian blur. So I'm going to use Faxbox blur. From what you can see from the settings here, you can see blur, radius, iteration. So if I want to make this picture blurry, all I need to do is just click and drag this. Can you see that's actually make it blurry? And you can increase the iteration. This is practically increasing the blur depth, and you can make it horizontal blur. You can make it a vertical blur, and you can uncheck this, so the edge will not be the edges will not have blur on it. So but basically this is a blur effect. So let me delete that as well. So one other thing you need to take notice, you can actually combine effects. So for instance, if I activate my shape, I can add a fill effect to it, and then I can go ahead and add a blur effect. So I'm going to just search for it here. Let me just type in fast box blur. So I'm going to click this and then drop on this. Right, you can see that I'm stacking more than one effect here, and I can increase the blur. Right, what it does is it just makes it a little bit blurry in a way. Right, if I keep increasing the blur, can you see that it's actually blurring out the whole thing, which can be cool for what you really want to achieve. Right, I just wanted you to know that you can also combine effects to get a certain kind of look. So I'm going to delete this too. So I'm going to uncheck this, right? And there's some effect that actually works more better for image, for shapes, for text. So it just depends on whatever it is you are trying to achieve. So for the image, I want to try and explore other kinds of effects. So if I go to effects, image, if I go to effects, I can go to the transition folder, and you can see I have different kinds of transition effects here. These are actually used for transition. Okay, but you can also use them as normal effects as well, because they're actually effects. So if I try the first one, you can see we have the effects here already, and it's on the image. So let me just make sure I'm looking at the image alone. So if I click on the transition completion, right, can you see what it's doing? It's actually making it disappear in a certain way, right, but in smaller particles. But then if I change this to 50%, for instance, can you see that it's actually showing the background, like the empty background? So let me uncheck this, and if I hide this, you can see that it's black now, right? So can you see what it's doing? So it's making it disappear in smaller particles in a certain way. But then if I increase the block width, can you see what's doing it? If I increase the block height, right, can you see what's happening? And I can also increase the feather. So the feather is the edges, but then I can also uncheck the software, uncheck the soft edges and reduce the feather. Can you see what's happening? So I can actually have something really blocky, like let's say, let me do 100, and I'll do 100 on the height too as well. And this is what I'll have. And if I click and then drag the transition completion, can you see that it's disappearing? Can you see that it's actually disappearing? Okay, so, and if I take it back to 0, it appears again. So for instance, I can bring in another image. Let me just select this and import. So if I take this image now and drag it below, right, remember layer hierarchy is, can you say this is what is showing on the right? But now if I now go to my image, go to my effect control, and then do transition completion, can you see that it's actually showing what is underneath it, right? So you can actually do transition with this. That is block dissolve effects or transition effects. We can normally use this as normal effects, and that works too as well. So let me just take this image and delete. Right, I'm going to take this transition effect and delete too as well. There are other ones too as well. If I go to effect, if I go to transition, let's do linear wipe. If I click this, can you see what it's doing? It is actually wiping it from the left to right. I can change the angle. I can add feathering so it have soft edges. You can see that that's soft edges. You can just do something like this, right, which is quite interesting. That's for linear wipe. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go to effects, let's check another one. Let us do radial wipe. So radial wipe is practically the same thing, but this time around it's going to wipe it all around. So you can see that I'm getting a little bit of lag here in my preview, so I can change this to half so it can give me more real-time results. So if I click and drag, can you see? Right, I can change the angle, I can make it clockwise, anti-clockwise, or both. I can increase the feather. So those are like some effects that you will be using when you actually get used to After Effects. We are going to go even deeper when go and take our designs from Photoshop and bring into After Effects. So before we go, I want you to know that we've been working on After Effects and we've not saved. which is not a good idea at all. So what happened is, if anything happens to After Effects at this point, let's say it crashes, you lose all the work you've been doing. So how do we make sure this does not happen? Immediately you create your composition, right? You go straight to your file and click on save. And with this, it's going to ask you when you want to save it. And I'm just going to, let's say save this. I'll save this on my desktop. And I'm going to name it BYL, right? And I'm just going to save it, right? Or else you stand in risk of losing so much of your work. And one last thing, you need to also enable auto saving. So if you go to edit, go to preference, go to auto save, you need to make sure you have auto save checked and make sure you put in every 5 minutes. Don't put 1 minute. 1 minute is going to bog down your system, and don't put 20 minutes, 10 minutes, because what happens is if you work for 19 minutes or if you work for 9 minutes and you have 10 minutes as your autosave, you've lost 90 minutes of work. But 5 minutes seems to be like the right thing to do here, or more appropriate thing to do here. And then of course make sure you check save when starting a render queue, and every other thing will be fine. So just click OK, and as you are working, it's actually going to be doing auto save for you, right? So please, we should normally, the normal practice is immediately you create your composition before you start dragging things into this. That's when you should save your work, okay, so you not lose your work. So please make sure you put that into practice. Thank you.
All right, guys. I really hope you guys really enjoyed that. I know that was a long one, but the most important thing is hope you're able to learn something. Like I said, this has been broken down into two sections. The first section is overview of After Effects, while the second section, which we are going to go into now, is going to be the main thing, right? When you go into, you take your Photoshop file or graphics and then animate them in After Effects. But before I do that, I would like to actually answer one or two questions that I saw in the group chat. Let me just give a shout out to Ominex, Mrs. Park. Hope I got it right. Sorry if I murder your name. I'm sorry. Olusegun, Abdurrahman. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for being part of this. I really hope you learned something. Right. So let me quickly attend to some of those questions. Ominex, I was asking how did I mask? Let me quickly show you guys that. All right. So this is what we were dealing with, right? Let me uncheck this and I can take this. So, when you want to draw a shape, right, you have to make sure that you don't select anything. So I'll go to my my rectangle tool, right, which is the same thing as the shape tool. So I'll just select this, right, and then I can go ahead and start drawing shape, right. I'm actually using a gradient, so I can change the color to, let me just change this to solid color. Okay. So, yeah, so this is my rectangle, right, but this is when you just want to draw a shape. But if you want to draw a mask, it's actually the same way, but this time around you have to select what it is you want to mask. So I'll select this and I'll click on my shape tool, whatever shape I want. I can still stick to rectangle, and then I will now draw the mask, right? So you can see this is how you actually draw mask in After Effects, right? This is how you draw your mask. And if you go to the mask settings, right, there are actually different types of options here. There's add, there's subtract. So if I subtract, you can see that it's doing the inverse of that, and there are other ones, right? But that's majorly how you draw your mask. And I think Olusegun was asking about how to get After Effects. I would say you should go through Adobe website, or you can just ask around. So I won't say more than that. There are ways people get their softwares. For if you want to hear it from N Academy or from me, I'll say go through the Adobe website. It might cost you something, but that's what it is. So yeah, so I would like to quickly talk to you guys about our motion design kickstart online. And to do that, let me just quickly show you guys something about that. Are you looking to get into motion design? Or do you want to bring your design to life? Let me introduce to you N Academy's Motion Design Kickstart Online. In this class, you will learn the fundamentals of motion design. We will start with basics of animation, keyframing, timing, and then we'll move on to more complex topics like advanced slideshow and 3D animations. We'll be exploring motion design through the use of industry standard software, After Effects, and among other supporting tools. You won't be alone on this learning journey with our video recorded classes, but each week we have live sessions when you have the opportunity to ask questions and receive guidance as we check on your progress. My name is Nasir Karim. I'm the facilitator for this course. Enroll now for N Academy's Motion Design Kickstart Online, and I'll see you in class. Alright, so that was our promo video. That was our promo video for Motion Design Kickstart Online. We've had physical classes, and if you can hear from some of our alumni, you will know that it has been a really great class. But we are now taking the class online, and it's not just going to be another type of online course or Udemy. It's something going to be different, right? It's actually something different, basically. So let me tell you why it's a little bit different, right? We are not going to have recorded videos where you can just watch, right, and then that's it, right? But in this one, we are going to be having live sessions with the facilitator, which is me, weekly, to catch up with you, to answer your questions, to help you with your assignment. And we're also going to have teaching assistants as well. So if you run into problem, you run into any issues trying to learn, or you don't understand something, there's somebody there to really help. I will really suggest that you sign up for the course, and I'm pretty sure you are going to really enjoy that. All right, so without any other question, I think it's time for us to go to the second section of today's webinar. Please, if you do know people that have signed up for this and they are yet to join, try and reach out to them so that they can join and be part of this. So let's go straight to the second section. This is why we are here. I will suggest you get a bottle of water. Maybe while I'm talking, just try and get a bottle of water, relax, stretch your legs, right? Because this is why you are here. If you're a graphic designer, this section part is for you. This section part is for you. All right, so let's get to it.
Before we move on, I would like to quickly introduce us to pre-composition. And pre-composition, for now, I'm just going to introduce it to you as grouping your layers. It does so much more, and you get to see that, but I'm just going to introduce it to you as grouping your layers. Just think of it in Photoshop, right? When you have to group layers together, practically something like that, right? So let me just quickly show you how that looks like in After Effects before we now move on to Photoshop. I'm going to take this and let me name this guy Kelvin. This guy looks more like a Kelvin to me, so I'm just going to click it, put in the word Kelvin here. We are going to assume that we're trying to do a simple motion graphics for Kelvin for his YouTube. So I'm just going to click this and just drag to the side. And that's because I want to have the YouTube icon at the side. So let's quickly create a YouTube icon using shapes. Go to my shape tool on the rectangle tool, and I am going to click on it. Make sure nothing is selected. Come here, then I'll just drag this like this. And of course, I'll have to make sure that there's no stroke. And I'll have to make sure that there's fill. So I'll change the color to red because that's the YouTube icon. And also I would now like to go into this content, right? So this is something we've not touched before. So if you open up your shape tool, if you open up your shape layer rather, I can open up my rectangle and you can see all the things that make up the shape. Right now I'll open up rectangle path. Now under this we have size, position, and roundness. This position is not the same thing as the position of the transform property here, right? This position has to do with the position of the rectangle within the shape layer, while the position here has to do with the position of the entire shape layer. So let me just close that. I'm not going to touch the position either. But what I would like really want to touch on is the roundness. Right, let me zoom in a little bit more with me using my middle mouse, and I'm going to hold down my space bar for the hand tool just to readjust, and I'm just going to click and drag the roundness a little bit, right, until it looks like YouTube. I think I can work with this. Then I'm just going to name this to rec. That stands for rectangle. I'm just going to close this. Then I'm going to go back to my shape tool again. Now this time around I want to use the polygon tool. Okay, this is something new, so I'm going to click this, and I'm just going to come here and then drag. By default you will not get a triangle, and it's because the last time I was working I used triangle, that's why it's giving me a triangle. So by default this is what you're going to get. I think this, yes, this is what you're going to get by default. And the way I actually quickly change the size is to, as I'm holding on to my mouse, to my left click mouse, I am clicking up and down to reduce the size. So this is just a quick simple shortcut to increase the size of your polygon, right? So you can increase it by clicking up, and reduce it by clicking down arrow button. So I'm going to go with the triangle. I'm going to hold down shift so I to snap, and I'm going to just make it a little bit small like this. I'm going to click out, select this, make sure this is white, and I'm just going to click my move button. Make sure whenever you want to move your shape, let me zoom in, make sure if you see it like this, make sure you click out and then select the shape layer before you start moving it. Because what happens is if you are selecting this and move it, you're actually selecting the shape within the shape layer, and that is different. So if I click on this and then move it, it's not entirely moving the shape layer, it's moving the shape within the shape layer. So try and avoid that, because what happened here is if I click out, the anchor point will change. Can you see? So let me just undo that, and what I would like to do is to click out and then click this, or sometimes you can just click the shape layer and then you can now move it to where you want to move it. Now the next thing I want to do is to rotate, so I'm just going to quickly press R for rotation, which is a shortcut, and I'm just going to put 90, and I'm just going to readjust this, and maybe I can even scale it down. So on my composition I can click on the handles, hold down shift and then drag in, so to scale it down accordingly. So right, so I'm just going to settle with this. It's not the best YouTube icon, but I'll settle with this. So I'll select this and I'm just going to name it YouTube Play. I'm just going to do this. So let me zoom out so you can see what we have here. All right, so this is actually not bad. What I would like to do is, instead of me having all of this here, I'm going to just pre-comp the entire card here, right, that make up the text and the icon. So how do I do that? Let me first of all, I've added some animation to this, right, so it doesn't really matter. So what I will now do is I'll take the rectangle background here and shift click to YouTube Play. All I need to do is just right click and do pre-compose. So it's going to bring out this dialog box, right, and I can name it YouTube card. Then the options available for you to select is to move all. So this is saying that you should move everything that you selected into a new composition, and you can always leave this on to adjust according to the duration, and you can always leave this off. So I'll just click OK. By so doing, you can notice that this has turned to 2 layers. The good thing about this is if I open this up, it has its own transform layer too, right? So that means I can take this, move it everywhere I want, and I can also add animation, scale animation, rotation to this. So within the pre-composed layer there could be animation, and then taking the entire layer and then add animation to it could be something really cool. So I can just reposition this here for a better composition. If I want, I could just animate it, but I'm not going to do that. Just want to quickly show you that. Now for you to have access to this card alone, I can double click here, and then as you see, you can see that this is what we have here alone, and then you can always come back and adjust your animation. For instance, I can say, okay, I don't want it to be Kelvin, I want it to be John. I can do John. By so doing, I can just go back, because when you double click it, open a new composition for you on the side, so you can have multiple compositions open. I can just click on introduction, and by then this would have changed. or sometimes you can just use tab. So this tab is going to show you what composition you are and what composition you're going to be going out of from. So I'll go to introduction, and here we are, right? So this is pre-composition in a nutshell. Now let's go to Photoshop. So this is the Photoshop project we are going to be working with today. It's a simple design. It's not the best design in the world, but it will do. So what we really want to do is to tidy up this project and prepare it for After Effects, because it's not everything that is designed in Photoshop that can be easily used in After Effects. But of course, I think everything can be animated in After Effects, however you want to do it, but they are best practice for you to just prepare your designs for After Effects. So first, I would like to show you the image. I have the layer mask here. So if I disable the layer mask, you can see that this has some other details like the shadows, but we're going to add that in After Effects. So I'm just going to enable the layer mask, and we have the background on its own. Yeah, I think that's it pretty much. So what I really want to do now is to just group some part of the design so that they'll be together. So like this new collection shop now can be together, this whole segment can be together, and then the rest of it can be on its own. So let's quickly do that. So I'm just going to quickly highlight this. I'm just make sure I'm on the selection tool, and I'm just going to highlight this, right? So it's going to be highlighting, it's also highlighting my image with my background, which I don't want. I'll hold down Control to deselect, and I'm just going to do Control G to group, and I'm just going to name this dark blue details. Click out, then do the same thing for this. Select my image background, then do Ctrl G, and I'm going to name this light blue details. Click out, then I'm going to select these 3 circles here, and I'm going to do Ctrl G as well. Just name it circles, right? They're just there as design accents, and I think every other thing is fine. One thing you also want to take note of is naming your layers, so that'll be quite easy for you to recognize them in After Effects. So I'm just going to double click this image here. I'll title it image and click out. Then I'll go to file and I'll just click on save. I've actually saved this already, so I'll just save it again, and then I will have to take this to After Effects now. Now I have my Photoshop file. What I did was to create a new After Effects project. So we are not going to be working on the previous one anymore. We're going to be working on a new After Effects project. So what I need to do now is to click on my Photoshop file and drag and drop. After that, you are going to see this dialog box, and by default you only see it as footage, which is in the import kind. So all you need to do is just make sure you click this. Don't click on composition, that's okay, but you want to click on composition within layer sizes, right? That's the most important thing. And I'll click on that and leave it at editable layer styles, and I'll just click OK. So a few things will happen. It's actually going to bring in the Photoshop file as its own composition in its size. So the size that we used was 1080 by 1080, which is for Instagram post, and also it comes with its own folder. So if I open up this is made up of all the layers that we created. You can see the ellipse or the adjustment layer. You can see that these are the ones that we group. They are all coming in as a pre-composed layer as well. So I can just minimize this, and I can go to the main composition, and I'm just going to double click on it, and by so doing, it's actually going to come in on its own layer like this. And the beautiful thing about this is it's also important the guides that I created in Photoshop. So I can easily deactivate the guides by just doing Control semicolon. I really hope I'm correct. Control semicolon. But if you can't do that using the shortcut, you can just go to View. Then you can come here and clear guides, or you can just uncheck show guides. Okay, so let us quickly evaluate the layers. So if you see this, I have the cursor, which is the adjustment layer. Now we have all our group, as you can see here. So if I double click this is what I have here, which is quite interesting. If I go back and double click the circle one as well, can you see this is what we have here? So I can go back, I can use tab to go back. If I check this too as well, you can see, which is good. So I'll go back, and if I click on any of this, you can see that they have their own composition, and you can see their bounding box, right? The reason is it's already rasterizing it. Without rasterizing, it will just fill up the whole composition. So let me just solo this to let you know. So you can also solo your layer using this icon here. So by soloing it, you can see all the bounding box, it's filling the whole layer. But if I rasterize it, it will just snap to where it is. So that is what that is doing. Alright, let's get to the animation proper. So I would like to start with the image. So let me just select the image. So the first thing I would like to do is to add a transition effect to this. So I'm going to select the image, make sure this is at the beginning, go to effect, go to transition, then use linear wipe. So if I click on this and drag, can you see what I have here? It's swiping it from the left, but now I'm just going to change the angle to about 180. And I'm just going to, if I click and drag now, can you see what I have? So at this point, I'm just going to, let me drag it to about, 82% is fine. Click on this here, go to about 1 minute 14 seconds, then drag this back to 0. So if I preview this is what I have. And I'm going to click on U to see my keyframes, highlight it, and go to keyframe assistant and just do easy ease, which is really fine. So if I play this now, is what I have. But then I don't want to stop here because I really want this to have some really cool look. So what I'll do is I'll click on my image, I will duplicate it. Now the one on top, I will name it the original image, and I'll click on that. I can even easily click on my layer color by clicking on the color here, and I can change the color to yellow, so I will know that this is my original image that I don't really want to mess with. But as you can see, they are actually doing the same thing, and you will not see the difference. So but for now, I'm just going to uncheck that solo so I can focus on the duplicated image. And what I really want to do is actually quite simple. I just want to add some overlay effect into this. So I'll go to my effect, go to transition again, and I'll use block dissolve on this particular one. Let me just take the time indicator to where the wiping is not happening. Okay, remember I'm working on the duplicated image now, and the block dissolve is actually here. Right now I just need to change the settings of this to have something really cool. So if I change the transition completion, can you see what it's doing? Right, we've touched on this earlier. So what I really need to do is I'll uncheck this, which is the soft edges. Let me adjust this so you can see. And then I'll go to block width. I'll change this to about 11%, block height about 11%, and you can see what's happening here. And I'll change this to about, let's say, let me just click and drag and say let's do about 66 is fine. You can see this. So if I play this now, can you see what it's doing? One thing I also like to do, because when you're stacking effect, is also respect hierarchy. Even though right now it does not really mean much, or the difference is not so much, I would just like to drag this first and put it on top. So it will be like this particular image actually has block dissolve first before we apply linear wipe, right? I just like to do things that way because, like I said, it respects hierarchy too, right? Whatever you apply first will be the base, followed by anything you stack on top of it. We've done that. Then one other thing I would also like to do is to change the color of this duplicated one. So I'm going to select it and then go to effects and then go to generate, and I'll click on fill. So by default, it's going to change it to red. So I'm just going to click on this and change the color. So I'm going to use somewhere around here, maybe somewhere around here, and change this color to this. All right, let's see if we can work with this. And this is what we have. So we have this going on. I'm done with the duplicated one. So by uncheck with the original, you cannot tell the difference, right? So all we need to do, remember layer hierarchy, is to offset it. So if I zoom in a little bit by clicking on my zoom in function here, I can offset the original image by 1 frame. So I'll click this and just drag it back by 1 frame. Can you see? So if I play this now, you can see that is already really looking cool, right? But one thing I also like to do for us to be really be organized is I would like to select these two images and then group them, so we know that everything that has to do with this has to do with the image. Maybe before we do that, let's do one more thing. Let's do one more duplicate. So I'm going to click on this duplicate. So I'll name the one under image blue. Now the one on top, now I'll name it image white, right? Because all I need to do for this is just change the color to white, and you guys will see the result very soon. So all I need to do now, I'll select the original image and the white, and just stagger it by one frame. So let me uncheck the transparency grid so you can see what is going on here, right? So if I do this now and play, we have this something really cool here. Now I'll select the three images and I'm just going to pre-compose it. So the shortcut for that is Shift Ctrl C, or you can just right click, then go to pre-composition, and then I'll just name these images and I'll click OK. If I double click this, now it has its own layer, as you can see here. You can notice some white stuff here, and this has to do with the way I was cutting it in Photoshop, right? But it's not going to be so much of a big deal, so we can leave that. So let me just fit to screen. Let me uncheck all of this. So if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that all of this is staggered, right? So you can see this is really looking cool. Okay, these are the duplicated ones because these are no more showing. So if I click on U, so this is where they end. So I'm going to click on the white one, cut it off. So I can cut it off by just dragging the end of the layer like this, or I can just use a simple shortcut by using Alt back square bracket. And I'm going to do the same thing for the image blue as well, Alt back square bracket. I can adjust this to this point, and by so doing, we have our tidied up layers. So now I can go back to our main project file, and if I just play this alone, you can see that. So we are done with the image, so I'm just going to uncheck this, right? So if I play this now, so you can see where there could be a challenge with that which we just did. Can you see? So what I need to do right now is to mask off that place. So what I really need to do, I can do the mask here, but I think I can go into the image, and then I think each of this has this. So what I really need to do, so let me solo this first, and I can just go to my pen tool, which is for you to draw your custom shape, or you can also use it to draw custom mask. I'm just going to zoom, and I'm just going to do something like this. So I'm masking it, and what is happening right now is it's actually revealing this. So what we need to do, I'll go to my layer, I'll open this up, I'll close this up, and you can see that I have mask here. So I'll open this up, and you can see I have my mask. So I'll open this up again, and I can choose, instead of add, I'll choose subtract. So by so doing, it's actually going to inverse the mask. I'm practically going to do the same thing for the blue and the original image. So I can just easily click on the mask, Ctrl C, and then paste on the two, and to do practically the same thing. So with this, we don't have to worry about that anymore. So let me just fit to screen. You don't have to worry about that other thing that's disturbing us. I've actually introduced you to masking. So if you want to mask, you can mask using your pen tool. It's not just pen tool, you can also mask using your shape layer. So let me disable this one for now, so that I can quickly show you how it works. Let me solo this, or better still, let me solo this. So enable this, subtract. So this is the original image, right? Let me just quickly show you more about masking. I'll press M. M is the shortcut for mask, and I'm just going to disable this, right? So that means the mask is not taking any effect. If you want to draw mask using your shape, you can just go to your shape tool. So let me click here, and the rectangle, select this. Unlike before, where if you want to draw a shape, you make sure that nothing is selected, but now you have to select this and then draw your mask, right? You'll notice that the image is only revealing through the bounding box that I drew for it. So this is mask, and you can actually just check different kinds of mode. You can subtract, so it's only going to rest, and so forth. You can have multiple masks, just like you can see here. So that's just mask in a nutshell. Okay, so let's move on. Let's make this, let's really need to go fast now. I think I'm done with this now. No more distraction. So let me just click on tab, go back. So if this plays now, let's see. That's quite interesting. So let's move on to something else. I'll go to my selection tool and I'll go to, let's start with the circle. If I double click this, you can see how tiny this is up here. And the way shapes work in Photoshop is kind of different from the way they are in After Effects. So you might think this is just another native shape you create in After Effects, but it's actually kind of different. So let me show you. So if I click on this, if I zoom in very well, you can see that it's actually forming a mask around it. So let me press M, right? And let me change the color of the mask. So I can change the color of the mask by just clicking on that color thing there. Right, you can see that it's a mask that is around it. So most of the time, what you really want to do, in some cases you might want to redraw it. So basically what I mean is, I'll click out, go to my shape tool, select the shape ellipse, and then redraw your circle. That's what you really want to do in some situation, because that masking might be a little bit difficult for you to control. But in this situation, I think we can manage. So if I have to draw this now, select this. So for me to able to add, a really good animation to this, because the kind of animation I want to add is for it to just be, scaling and the blinking and all, right? So I need to add a scale animation to this. So if I start doing that right now, if I select S for my scale and I drag this, can you see it's dragging it down instead of it moving into at the spot? And that's because my anchor point is actually at the center. I can do this two ways, right? I can either redraw this ellipse, or I can select this and then go to my pan behind anchor point tool and then just click and drag. So let me zoom in because it's actually quite small. Click and drag and I'll target the center. I'll hold down Control to target the center, and that's it. So the anchor point will be at the center. So let me just hide this remain tool and focus on this for now. So I'm going to change back to the selection tool, select this, and I'll take this back a little bit. Let me zoom in some more. I think I'll still take it back a little bit more. Go to the 5th frame. So that's why I have to zoom in. This is not, it's not 5 seconds, it's the 5th frame. This is 1 second mark, right? Now this is the 5th frame. So I'm going to check this here to set the animation, drag this back, and I'm going to set this to 0. Okay, so if I play this now, can you see it's revealing this way? Let me change my resolution to full so it will look better. So what I need to do is just align this, make sure I do easy ease, and I'll go to my graph editor this time because I really want it to have something more of a attitude. So I'll highlight this quick, drag it here, drag this other one here. So if I play this, I have this cool animation thing going. But then I'm not done. I think I would like to animate it out. So I'll go to 10th frame. I'll just highlight this keyframe, copy, and then paste. So if I play this now, can you see what's happening? So it's just blinking. So all I really need to do is to actually make sure I repeat the keyframe until it gets to the end. I think I don't have to make sure it is 32 seconds long. So I don't have to make sure it's 32 seconds long. All I can do is I can just take my time indicator to about 10 seconds. I press N, that's shortcut for trimming or limiting your work area, and then I'll right click and I'll do trim to work area. So we now have this whole thing is now 10 seconds. So all I really need to do is just copy and paste, right? So I'll align this to, because this has the animate in and at this point is out. So I'll align this to Ctrl C and then Ctrl V, right? When you're doing that, make sure you know where your time indicator is. So, and I'll do the same thing here, Ctrl V, and I'll just keep doing this until it fills up 10 seconds. You might ask, is there not a faster way of doing this without repeating this keyframe? Yes, there's a faster way, but I don't want to introduce that into this because that will introduce us to a little bit of some coding, JavaScript coding, but it's not so much of a coding. It's actually a simple loop expression. But maybe I'll just show you the loop and just to be on the safer side. But let me just quickly show you this. So let me just highlight this. This is nothing. Let me go. It's going to be at the 10th frame, right? So that means I will like this to this point. Okay, hold on. Yeah, exactly. This is where I am. I like to 0 point, Control C, Control V. You can come here, you know, make sure it's on the frame that I want it to be, Control V, right? So I'm just targeting 10th frame, so I can highlight all of this now, go to the 5th frame here. So this is nothing. I think I will have to highlight it from here, right? Then Control V. Okay, so I will do the same thing here, revealing, Control V. So I'll just keep doing that. Let me just quickly go faster with that. I know that this could be time consuming. Like I said, there's a faster way of achieving this, which I will show you right now. If I play this now, this is what I have, right? And the beautiful thing is you don't have to necessarily copy all of this into this layer. I can just easily delete this other. Let me leave one. I'll delete this other layer. So what I really need to do is to select this, duplicate, right? So it's now in the same place, and I'll just press P for position, and then I'll just drag this to the side a little bit. So by so doing, this has the same thing. So let me just drag it to the side, which is cool. So all I need to do is just offset it a little bit. So I'll offset it by 3 frames. So I'll come here, drag this 1, 2, 3. So if I play this, can you see what's happening here? Right. So this last one, I reserved this last one because I want to show you the shortcut or the faster way of getting this thing done. So I'll select this and I'll change the anchor point. Remember, the anchor point is here. It's actually quite non-noticeable, so maybe I should uncheck this, right? So you can see I should have been doing this since. So apologies if you've not been seeing the anchor point well. So I'll click and then drag this up and then zoom in, right? Target the center. So we have this. Okay, so I'll go back to my selection tool. So I will just apply my scale animation to this here. So, and I'll go back. So this is one I'm dealing with now. Let me change the color to this so you can recognize it, and I'll change this to 0. So this is the animation I've applied. So I'll highlight this, I'll do easy ease, right? And I'll go to my graph editor, apply the same curves to this, and that's all I really need to do. So if I play this, I have this animation. Like I said, this has to do with a little bit of some coding, sorry, to automatically be doing all these ones that I've actually duplicated. So all I really need to do is I'll just alt click the shape, I'll type in loop and do this, and now I'll click on comma. I think it's called invited comma. Please pardon me if I'm not getting the English correctly. And then I'll just click on this option for ping pong, and that's it. So ping pong will make it go back and forth. It's actually quite simple. So if I check out and if I play this now, right, automatically that happens. So if this seems to be not easy for you to grasp, just do copy and paste. So that's why I actually show you the 2 options. Right, so what I need to do is just drag this back, let's see, 3 more frames from here. Yeah, so if I activate all of this, you can see what we have. So we are done with the circles. So let's go back to the webinar itself, and I actually notice that everything is stretching to about 33 seconds, which is not what I want. So I'm going to drag this to 10 seconds. Let me target 10 seconds here, and just to be sure, and I'll trim, right click and say trim to work area. So we are working with just 10 seconds animation, which is fine. Now let's go straight to the Nike part, so which is the dark blue details. I'll double click this, and this is what we have. So here what we really need to do is really simple. So let me just zoom in some more so you can see what we're about to do here. Let me change my resolution to full so you can see this clearly. So I'll zoom in and I'll go to the 1 second mark. If you want to be noticing your timing, you can always look at your timing right here. Right, so this is called preview time, and I'm actually going to click on this, press S for scale, and I'm going to check this, and by default you can see the anchor point is at the center, so I don't really have to worry about where it's going to scale from. So I'm going to take this back and I'm going to change the value here to about 250, right? So it's actually going to be bigger, and then rest, something like this. And at the same time, I'm going to press Shift T, and I'm going to just set the opacity here, take this back and change the opacity to 0. So now with this, I have something like this. And I'll highlight the tool and do keyframe assistant. Make sure you always right click on the keyframe and keyframe assistant, and I'll do easy ease. Go to my graph editor. I like this, drag it to the side. I like this too, then drag it to the side. So you can actually highlight more than one graph details. So if I play this now, this is what I have. But I want this to keep blinking, right? And that blinking has to do with opacity. So that means I can just keep building my opacity animation. I would love to use the JavaScript coding that we did the other time, which is for looping, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show you the simple way to achieve this. I'll just come here. I can change the value to, let's say, 50%. Come forward randomly. I can make it 0. You don't have to be super precise with the with the frame that you're targeting. I can make this 20%. I can make this 100% again. Make this 10%. Make this 0%. Make this 50%. Make this 0%. Make this, let's do 80%. Right, let me just do 3 more. I'll make this 10%. I'll make this 100%, and I'll make this 0%, right? Which is fine. So I can highlight all of this. I can Ctrl C, forward, and then do Ctrl V, move forward again, do Ctrl V, move forward again, and do Ctrl V. Okay, which is, we are now beyond the 10-second mark that we have in our original. So we really do not have to trim this work area. Of course, you can trim if you want, but I'll just leave it the way it is. If I play this now, let's see what we have. Can you see that it's just keeps on blinking, which is really cool. So one thing I can also do is I can tighten this keyframe, so in order to make the animation faster. So I'll highlight all the opacity. I'll hold down Alt and then click. You need to hold down Alt first, click, and then drag. Can you see it's dragging everything accordingly? It's tightening all the keyframe. So I can just take it to where it ends here. So if I play this now, right, can you see it's really looking cool. So some parts, I think some part there are some space, too much space, so I can even tighten it some more. Right, maybe I can even do this. I like the remaining here, drag it to the side, and maybe I like all of this and tighten it some more, basically. Right, maybe do something like this. So if I play this now it's looking more like it. So I can just highlight part of this, come here and then paste. So if I play this now it's looking more interesting. We are done with this. What I would just like to do is just offset this to about 2 seconds, and you guys will see why I'm offsetting it very soon. So wait, then 2 seconds, this kicks in, and then we have this animation, which is absolutely fine. So even this is actually more than 10 seconds, which is absolutely fine. So we go back to our main subject matter here. So if I play, this is what we have already, and then we have this. Okay, so let's go to the light blue corner, and we need to animate this. So let me zoom in some more so you guys can see this clearly. Let me change this to full, so this can look really sharp. So for the line, I don't want to deal with the anchor point issue or the mask issue here. So all I really need to do is to just redraw this. So I'll click out and I'll click on my rectangle tool, and I will change the color to the color of the line, right? Making sure that is the color I'm selecting, and then I can just come here and then start redrawing. Make sure there's no stroke. I can just start redrawing this, and I think this is fine. And I can just come here and delete this line and rename this to my line, which is cool. Then for the text, because it's coming from Adobe Photoshop, you can easily just come here and edit the text and change the font and all sorts. But you can't right? As it is right now, you can't. Even if I double click it, it will not give you the desired result. But all you need to actually do is to convert it to the text that After Effects understands. So if I right click and go to create, just do convert to editable text, and by so doing I can double click it. I can, for instance, make it shoe shop, sorry, play this now. I have this, right, which is really, really cool. So we are done with the line animation. So the next thing I would like to do is to animate the text. So let's start with the shop now. So I can easily just create, simple position animation or scale animation using the transform. So if I open this up, you can see that we have transform, we have text, right? If I open up the text, we have more options here. So, but we are not going to really dive in deep into the text part of these things, all right? But so what I would like to do now is to introduce you to presets. So what are presets? Presets are already made animation that you can actually apply to your own layers or to your own composition or to your own animation, basically. So let's do this. I would take this to the beginning of the timeline, select the new shop, and I'll come to my effect and preset here. And if I make sure I scroll to the top, you can see animation preset here. I can open this up. I'll come to my presets here, animation preset. I'll open this up. I'll open up the presets just like we did earlier. We go straight to the text folder and open this up, and we will actually want to work with animate in. So let me adjust this so you guys can see this very well. So now I can try and explore all of these presets. Our advice, like I said before, explore all of these presets. They're actually quite interesting. But now the preset I'm going to use in right now is actually going to be the code feeding. Let me start with shop now first. So I'm going to click this and then I'll drop on shop now. If I click out and then I play this, can you see the kind of effect it's giving us? This is really, really cool animation, right? And we didn't even do so much work to get this done. So if I click on shop now and press U, you can see the keyframe. So what I would like to do is, first of all, adjust this to about seconds so it will be shorter. So if I play this, and also I also want this to animate from the top down, so I can combine animation. For the fact that I've applied preset, that doesn't mean I cannot apply other animation to it. So I'll press P for position, set this here, press U so I can see all the keyframe, drag this to this end, and then I'll just drag it up, right? Now I know it will be clashing, but we are going to be dealing with that soon. So if I like this to now, I can right click, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease, graph editor, do this, right? You can choose to do whatever graph style you want. So this is just one I'm doing, and the rule of thumb is if you choose one particular style, right, try and be consistent with it so that to make your animation really harmonious. So if I play this now, this is what I have, right, which is really, and I'll do the same thing that I did for the opacity, right? So let me zoom in a little bit. One thing I can actually do, instead of me going through that straight, I can actually go back to one of those things I've animated before in the opacity side. So let's go back to the dark blue details. I can highlight all of this, right, and I will do Control C to copy. Then I'll come back here and then I'll select my shop now, then do Control V, and by so doing, if I press U again, just actually copy all the opacity animation, which is interesting already, right? And if I click and drag, can you see that is done? So if I play this, this is what I have, right? But I think from the beginning it's at the opacity, the first keyframe is opacity is at 50%. I don't want that to be 50%, so I'm going to zoom in and then make sure it's on the right keyframe, and I'll change this to 100%. So that's just a simple fix there, and then we have all of this. So that's really cool, just like we've been doing for others. So I'll come to the 10-second mark, press N, trim work area. So this is what we're working with, and with this I think we are done with this. So we'll come back to make sure we fix how we don't want it to be clashing with the line and collection. So before we do that, let us go to the new collection. I also have some animation to it. So let me solo this and let me uncheck the background thing there. I think it's even better this way. So I'm soloing this. That's why you can only see this alone. So for this, I just want this to have a simple position animation, right? And now that I'm looking at this, I think I need to uncheck that solo. I think I can manage to look at everything, right? At this point, I'll select this, press P for position, set it here, and drag it back, and then I'll drag this down because I want this to be revealing after the line get. So that's the intention here, which is cool. So I like this to right click, keyframe assistant, easy is apply the same curve. Okay, so if I play this, I have this. But for now, let us try and fix all this clashing and all because it's not actually looking really good. There are different ways for us to do this, but I'll just do the simplest ways with what we've learned so far. So what I would like to do is I would like to pre-comp this text, which is the new collection and the shop now. So I would right click, then pre-compose it. I can leave the name just the way it is, new collection comp. Click OK, which is fine. And I'll do the same thing for shop now, right? So that means they will actually have their own composition like this, which is absolutely fine. So now the next thing I want to do is to mask. Now I've introduced you to mask already. So I'll just come to my shift tool, make sure shop now is selected. And then what I'll now do is to just target where this line is like this. And that's it pretty much. So by the time this is coming from the top, can you see? It's almost as if it's revealing underneath the line. So I'll do the same thing for collection. Okay, so if I play this now, we have this, which is quite interesting. So let us offset it. So I'm going to select all of this. I drag it to about 1 second mark. I can drag the line down because that's what I want it to happen first. Then the new collection can happen then. And then I can just drag this to this point. Let's play, let's see how it looks like. Maybe I can make the line appear first a little bit. Alright, I think we can work with this. We can always come back and then adjust all of this. But I think this is actually working. So let's go back to the main thing where we are coming from. So as you can see from here, we've actually animated everything that we need to animate, which is really, really cool. But of course, we can push this further to make it more interesting, more engaging. So what I really like to do is to take the light blue details. Let me even drag this to be under the dark blue details. Now what I would like to do is to animate this entire comp now for both light and dark. So I'll go to the 2 second mark and I'll align the 2. I'll press P for position, check this, and then drag this back, and then I can just simply just drag both of them. So I'll make sure that I'm on the selection 2 and then just drag both of them like this. Oh, I'm actually animating the image by mistake, so I don't need to animate the image, but let me just drag this first. Let me drag this some more. That would do. So I don't need the image to be animated right now. This is not what I want, right? So let me uncheck. I'll come here and then I'll check the image animation. So, but it is the light one I also need to animate. So I'll come here to this point. So you can use these arrows to select keyframes, the next keyframes, right? And the shortcut for that is J and K to be selecting the next keyframes. So I'll set this position for the light blue here, come back here, then drag this to the side. So we have something like this. So if I play this, we have this coming in here. Of course, you know what we do. Easy ease, graph editor. I like this. Do this. And then we do this. So let me make sure it's at the center. Okay, that works. So if I play this now, right? So this is actually making so much sense right now. So what I can do, right, is I'll take this 2, I'll just offset it to about 2 seconds first, and then that will leave me with the image, which is okay. So I'll take my time indicator to about 2 seconds at this point. Let's say 4 seconds, right? Because I want this image to be here at 4 seconds. Set this here. Then at this point, I will set this here. Right, so that means from here to here, it's actually going to be appearing at the center and then to now move to the side alongside. So I like this, easy ease, graph editor, do the same curve. always make sure you select the wick, not the main thing here, right? If you do this, you're actually going to be moving the keyframe. Okay, so I will undo that. So I think we are good. So if I play this now, we have this, and then just drag to the side. But then I still need to offset the details a little bit. Maybe I can take the dark blue and then just offset it down a little bit. So let's see how that looks like. Maybe that's too much. I want it to be more draggy, right? So maybe something like that would do. Let me just put this up because I like to arrange my layers in a certain way, right? And I think we are good. One last thing we just need to do, like I told you when we were working with the Photoshop file the other time, we can actually add our reflection. So let us try and do that, add the reflection of this. So first thing first, I'll take the image, right? Let me change the color so I'll know that this is the image I'm dealing with, yellow. I'll take the image, I'll duplicate it. And now I would actually pre-comp this. So I'll right click the duplicated one and I'll pre-compose it. I'll name it image ref, that's reflection. And I would move all attributes, make sure you check on all my attributes and I'll click OK. So it's actually going to be showing the same thing. But now what I really need to do is I press S for scale and I want to check this scale and I will just drag the Y axis of the scale and to be something like this. And I'll just drag it down like this, and I can also increase the x-axis like this too, right? So we are trying to actually form the the reflection on the floor. So I can also try and move it freely to see what we can achieve here. So maybe I can drag it further down like this. Let me do minus, I think minus 15 is okay. Drag this and put it somewhere here. I think we can manage that. The next thing I like to do is to mask it. So I'm going to select the rectangle tool, right? And I'm just going to mask it this way, right? I am going to also add blur. So I'll come here and search for fast box blur. Type this in and drag here. I'm going to increase the blur to about, let's say, 25%. And also, because it is masked, can you see that it has that sharp edge here? So I'll click on this, press M for mask. Then open up your mask property, right? There's something called feather, right? Mask feather. So I'll click on this and I'll just increase it a little bit, right? So that the edges will be quite soft. And then I'll click on this and I'll reduce the opacity quite a little bit. Can you see we are getting there to perfect the reflection? I can still adjust it a little bit just to make sure we're on point. And then even if I play this, it's still not looking like it's a reflection, right? So we need to add one more effect to this to get this right. So I'll come here and I'll search for CC slant, right? It's a distort effect. So I'll click and drag here. I would increase this slant by, let's say, 80. So if I click this, can you see it's going to the side, so maybe we can do about, let's do 80, and I can just drag this to try and emulate that. So it won't be perfect, right, but at least it's going to be something. And I think one other thing I like to do is to adjust my mask. Let me select my mask path and let me change the color because this is hard to see. Okay, so this is my mask and I can highlight this and then just drag it further down a little bit more, right? Something like this. And with this, even if I play it now, right, you can see what's happening. So let me play this again, right? So you can see that when it moves to the side, we lost some details here. So, right, so let us just work with this, right? I think the challenge might be the mask. Let me see. Let me expand the mask. Oh yeah, that's been the challenge since. Can you imagine? That's fine. It's all part of the process. It's all part of the process. So let's do this and let me increase the blur again because the blur needs to be like this. Increase the feathering. Right. So the challenge has actually been the mask. So I think with this we can work with this. Don't let us overstretch this, right? Yeah, I think we can work with this. So Yeah, I think that's it pretty much. So we have this and this. So let me reduce the opacity. Yes, we need to reduce the opacity some more, right? So it's not be too strong, right? So let's work with that. So let's play this now, and then here we go. So we've come to the end of this, or sorry, just one last thing. I like details, so please, one last thing. I'll go to my image and I'll go inside my image. I'll press Q here, and at this point I'll press S for scale, and then I'll just take it further down into about 10 seconds. Just increase the scale a little bit. So what happened is, even after the animation, it just starts scaling up, right? I think it can even be faster, right? So let's play this. Can you see it's scaling up a little bit? So if I go back now and press play, can you see it's scaling up, right? And just to add additional movement and additional engagement to it. So with this, we've come to the end of the webinar. I really hope you've learned a lot. I know that I kind of skip on some things. I could have, explained more, but because of time, I couldn't do that. But you will definitely have the opportunity to, learn more in our full course Motion Design Kickstart coming up. So make sure you sign up for that, and then we'll talk more. All right. Thank you.
I really hope that was really impactful. Sorry, I'm just trying to set up my mic. Um, all right, so let me quickly attend to those questions that I saw on the live chat. I think the first question was from, it's not Mubarak. Hope I got your name right. Okay, the question was about, let me share my screen. So the question was about aligning your shape, right? So for instance, let me quickly create a new composition, right? Just click OK, and I have different shapes. So I'm just going to do this quickly. So I'll quickly show you how you can align your, let's say, your shapes. So what I did was to duplicate. If you want to duplicate, you do Ctrl D to duplicate and just move it to the side, right? I'll do Ctrl D again, move to the side. So let's say, for instance, you want to align this to the center, right? You want to align them to be centralized in the way, right? You can select the three, then go to your align panel, and then just align, right? Align it this way. And if you want to distribute them equally, choose the distribute layers, right? So we have a panel for align, right? So this is how you can align, okay, right? And if you want to align to the composition, you choose, there's a align layers here, you choose composition, and then if you now centralize it, only that this time around it will only align all the shapes together, right? So that's how you align. So let me quickly look for the second question. Coming. Ominex, thanks for engaging. Really appreciate success. Thanks for engaging as well. Chukun, so thank you so much. Mrs. Pratt, thank you. Akim, thank you. Really appreciate. Okay, so I think somebody was asking about CorelDRAW. So CorelDRAW, you cannot exactly prepare your files in CorelDRAW and then bring it into After Effects because they are not Adobe compatible, right? So you might probably have to render them in PNG files and then bring them into After Effects for you to animate. Somebody asked about AI. So let me quickly share for AI. Come in, just hold on. So I have, let me share my screen. So I have this AI file, right? And you want to prepare this for animation. So all you need to, it's kind of different a little bit because the way you prepare for Photoshop is more straightforward, but in AI, which is Adobe Illustrator, right, you would have to make sure that all of these that are grouped are in separate layers, right? And if you can look through here, if you go straight to your layers, if you open up your layer, you can see that all the groups are here. So all you need to do is to select the layer like this, then click on these three buttons that we have here, and then click on release to layer sequence. When you click that, everything will now be in its own layer, but we just need to do one more step. Highlight all of this. You can highlight from 2 to 10, then drag it up, right? Because they have to actually be on separate layers. So you can see that all of this now have their own layer. Can you see the background, the images here, the image here? Can you see? They have to be in their own separate layers, right? And as soon as you are done with this, you can easily just take the saved AI file, and then everything will be all arranged accordingly. I really hope that's clear. Let me check if there's more question for me. All right, so I'm seeing some comment like he choke. Well, I understand, and I would like to say, we are trying to, compress some things so that you guys can really get value in shorter time, right? But what I would say is this, and what I would strongly suggest is this: if you sign up for our course, the Motion Design Kickstart course, and maybe if you can stay tuned to our Instagram page where we have one of our alumni speak about our courses. For those that have taken the physical class, they will tell you how easy and simple it is when you engage in with our classes, right? So in this course, in the Motion Design Kickstart online course, we broke things down to the barest minimum because there's no time. We didn't have limited time. We are not timing ourselves, so we're able to break things down to the barest minimum, and you won't have to. You don't have to check any other thing as far as I'm concerned, right? To be sure of what it is that you're trying to do or you're trying to achieve in After Effects. So I'm sorry that it might seem like oh, okay, maybe it's a little bit difficult. In my own understanding, I don't think it's that difficult. So what I would just suggest is the replay is going to be available. I think it's going to be available maybe from tomorrow on our YouTube channel, which is N Academy. If you are yet to subscribe to it, make sure you do subscribe, and then you can rewatch it. Rewatch it as much as possible. When I was learning it myself, I needed to rewatch so many tutorials over and over again for me to get it. So, but I'm pretty sure you must have gotten value from this. Then I also like to say, if you check the live charts, we have access the assets, the Photoshop that we use for this training is actually in the link that's on the live chat, which is pinned there. Unfortunately, you cannot click, but you can just type it out and then visit that link. And when you visit the link, you will see you have access to the project file, which is the Photoshop. You also have access to our WhatsApp community link, whereby on our WhatsApp community you can get real-time updates about our classes, our courses, and our free webinars, right? So I would suggest you do that. For the scholarship, so I would like to talk about this. So we are going to be giving out one scholarship right now to one person, and the name of the person that we're going to, before I even talk about the person or talk about the person we are giving, right? The criteria you're using is how the person is engaging and how the person maybe asking of question, and also obviously if you can look through the live chat, you know that it's Ominex that has been the most engaging. So Ominex, you are now you've been awarded a scholarship for Motion Design Kickstart Online, 50% off. So you now have 50% off your off the tuition fee for the Motion Design Kickstart Online, and then we'll reach out to you and then we'll see how we take things off for there. But there's still one more room, so if you want to still be part of people that will still want to get a scholarship, which is going to be 50% off as well, all you need to do is simple. All you need to do is simple. Take the project file from the link. I'm going to upload a video soon on this channel on how to render your video. So I'm going to that will be available from tomorrow on how to render your video in MP4. So take the project file, the Photoshop file, then recreate the animation. Try and be creative with it. Upload on your Instagram, or yes, Instagram. We are looking at Instagram for now. Upload on your Instagram. Tag us. Hashtag bring your design to life, but make sure you tag us. And then the most engaging, interesting video wins, right? You win another 50% scholarship. So make sure you do that. Like I said, if you don't know how to render, I will upload a video very soon. We are going to be uploading a video very soon on how to render. It's just going to be less than 1 minute. It's actually quite simple. All right, so that's it for that. I've also mentioned that the replay is going to be available on the channel, so make sure you do subscribe, right? And yeah, I think I've covered everything I needed to say. So guys, we've come to the end of this webinar. I just want to say thank you so much for being part of this, but I would like to say this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning of great things. We are still going to have more free webinars, and for one of our core values is to make impact, and so far so good. Our goal is to raise the next generation of creative artists, and this is how we are doing that, right? So if you really want to learn more about us, visit our website www.nacademyng.com. Let me say that again, www.nacademyng.com. And you can also visit our Instagram handle at nacademyng, so guys, thank you so much. If you have anything, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me through my Instagram.